right, and we're at the top of the hour, so people will probably continue to file in, but let's go ahead and get started. For those who don't know me, my name is Tiana Pluck. I am proud to serve our marketing team here at MindPlay. I'm really excited to welcome all of you to our What's New Introducing MindPlay Reading Studio webinar. Our team has been working tirelessly for a very long time now. We're super excited to show you what we've been cooking up in an effort to make your life easier and also life easier for your students. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and kick it to Michelle Brandon.
Thank you, Tiana. Pleasure to be here today. We're really excited to welcome you. My name is Michelle Brandon, like Tiana said. I am the product marketing manager here at MindPlay. Been serving here at the company for just over a year, close to a year and a half. But I've been in ed tech for several years, and I've been able to share stories and connecting people through the art of connection. I do believe that being able to share stories, share shared experiences in life is going to ultimately be what helps change the world. And I'm joined by Brian Williams. He is our VP of product marketing. Product management. He's been with MindPlay for over 13 years at the company. And in that time, he has served in many roles, whether that be engineering, software architect, and helping drive the innovation of what MindPlay education is today. Outside of MindPlay, he is always in the garden. He tends to bees. And if he takes any of the inspiration of what he does in his personal capacity and that passion, spending time with his family, he also brings that to work. So it's really lovely to take a seat and watch him lead the product team here and see those innovations come to life. Myself, I also find that my personal life also meshes with my professional life in that I have a 13-year-old daughter who was diagnosed with being on the autism spectrum when she was 5 years old. And I have been in the special education community for a very long time. I think that special education teachers and admins and leaders really do have a special role for the students that they serve. And I'm glad that I can bring those shared experiences and market value to see how we can solve those issues for students and teachers alike. So without further ado, what you'll be hearing from is first from Brian, just understanding again what those challenges are for educators today, specifically when it comes to reading intervention technology. Then he'll toss it back to me and we'll go through reading instruction and how we're reimagining creating those experiences for teachers and students alike. And then I'm really excited for you all to get to see MindPlay Reading Studio. We've been working tirelessly to innovate and create change, and I think you're going to love what you see, and I hope you want to join us for that journey. And then we'll end with a Q&A so that we can address any questions that you have. So Brian, without further ado, I'm going to kick it back to you.
Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, so as Michelle said, I've been here quite a while and worked long and hard on a lot of neat things that we think help students acquire reading skills, mastery. But it's challenging to tell that story and get to the word out about that. So it's great for us to have somebody like Michelle here now who can help us find those stories and get the word out in settings like this that help tell MindPlay's story, which is a great story. So I want to start with talking a little bit about persistent challenges in reading intervention, right? So implementation can always be a challenge with any program, but in current intervention, I think when we're out talking to partners and discovering what works with our partners, we find this issue with engagement, right? So it's a challenge to engage students, of course, but engagement isn't just students, engaging administration, teachers, and staff with the supplementary materials in order to make an intervention program successful is very challenging, right? And so something that isn't new. Everybody's probably familiar with, but nonetheless, a persistent challenge with implementation. Now, it's not like we could just ask, teachers and administrators to just engage more with the platform, right? There's good, valid reasons why that's challenging. And one of them we like to coin is this incoherence problem. And that's, rises due to the fact that teachers and staff are managing multiple intervention programs just in reading, let alone all the other supplemental and resources that they have to manage with. Incoherence is this phenomenon where those systems don't necessarily talk or work well with each other, making the overall experience for students and teachers very cumbersome and difficult. And that drives down engagement because it's hard to see effectiveness and it's hard to stay on top of all of these things. And so these issues with engagement and incoherence, what comes out of that is a costly endeavor, right? Implementing any new intervention program or supplemental resource means there's training, means how does this work with the rest of our systems? How do we incorporate that with our views of data, conversations with parents, right? So teachers spend a crazy amount of time trying to drive engagement, trying to make all of these separate systems coherent students and meet the needs of the students and administration.
Brian, before you move to the next slide, that little lovely box is back. Do you mind moving that ever so slightly? Sorry to interrupt.
I do not have a box over my slides. Is it still there?
Yes. But just keep going, and then if we see it become a persistent challenge, we'll
I
figure.
can transition to you too as well if we need to. So these the implementation challenges. So what does that mean for the students, right? So because these challenges all have real effects on the student experience, right? It can cause disjointed instruction. So if you have even several systems that are really good at targeting student-specific needs, if students are transitioning between those programs and they're not talking to each other, not aligned to the same scope and sequence, not following the same instructional method or approach, then we can fail to properly target those specific needs in a timely manner or consistently across their experience. So that's disjointed instruction, but we can also miss opportunities, right? Intervention, good interventions focus a lot on phonics, rightfully so. Phonics is a bridge. It'll give students the opportunity to start to engage with text through becoming able to decode and fluently read, and so they can work on their comprehension skills. But we know that students that were struggling in elementary school, if they receive too long a duration and too heavily focused on phonics, that their comprehension skills can be underdeveloped. And so we don't want to miss that opportunity. We want to take students from acquisition of those skills to application in real text as quickly as possible, so they can stay up to speed with their peers in terms of developing higher level comprehension. And then we have limited reinforcement, right? So students enter into their intervention program, they get target grade instruction, then they leave that intervention into ELA activities that don't necessarily reinforce those skills. Those activities aren't really aware of the skills that the student just acquired, and therefore can't effectively reinforce those skills as the student transitions from targeted instruction to independent reading, right? So I think that knowing some of those challenges of implementation and how those can affect students, or what MindPlay's discovered those challenges and effects are, it'd be interesting to hear from you all. And so I think Tiana is going to start a poll here, asking you all to chime in on which of the intervention challenges most significantly impacts your students. And we'll give that a few seconds for people to vote on. might be a three-way tie.
And again, if people have anything else they come across, you can specify that in the chat. You can hit everyone so that we can share groupthink. I think that's a helpful exercise. But always curious to learn how we serve educators and the challenges you all encounter.
Yep, we have about 60% of people engaged in it. We'll give it a couple more seconds to get your final answers in.
Ruby Smith coming from Tennessee says efficiency in the chat. That's another challenge as well. Great call out, Ruby.
All right, I'll go ahead and close this. Our top answers being misalignment and limited reinforcement.
All right, well, that's very interesting. This alignment and limited reinforcement being things that you guys experienced out there. And some others, and we'll plow through those and gather some insights from that as well. But now I'm going to toss back to Michelle. Michelle, I can stop sharing and give you the slides if you want to try and get rid of the weird box on my screen.
Yeah, I can do that. And let me just catch up real quick with where you're at. Just one moment. Okay, I'm going to have you stop sharing and then I'll share my screen. And hopefully the weird box is gone. If I could get a thumbs up or even Tiana, if you don't mind.
Yes, the
Verbal affirmation that that's gone.
The box has been removed.
All right. Well, as Brian mentioned, it's been a really fun and thoughtful experience going through exploring these new approaches to reshaping effective reading intervention. At MindPlay, we are dedicated to making sure that we're advancing reading instruction and improving those outcomes for students. In order to do that, we recognize that there is an extreme focus on personalized learning. You see that in the poll, right? It matters that we are looking at how we can reach all students, and each student has unique challenges. Personalized learning isn't new, right? It's something that we've been working or experiencing in the ed tech community and education reform. It's something that we're looking to improve on because it's proven. Why does it matter? A personalized learning system has been proven to increase student engagement. And what happens is if you can explore a student's interests and their learning style, you're going to engage them immediately. And that helps us lead to better outcomes. If a student's engaged with their learning, they see the value, it's fun, it's rewarding for them, it's going to create that sense of ownership for them. And so if we create an adaptive course or adaptive material that differentiates and targets exactly what they need, and then we add in that element of student choice, then we're creating a really powerful outcome for them. And it's less effort, right? So especially for students that may be struggling, that could be a heavy load if they know that, hey, I just have to do this where everyone else gets to go into the library, or I have to do X, Y, and Z. But what if we shift that narrative and it's, I get to do this, or I can see that outcome. It's a crucial element for being able to create a modern approach to education. And MindPlay has been built on creating that acquisition story for over 40 years. The studio is going to help us continue the decades of research by helping us implement that Orton Gillingham approach that you're all familiar with in Coach. Now we're going to be able to deploy that in the studio. So it's going to provide multimodal, explicit, high quality instruction. We've spent a lot of time getting there for Coach, and we're bringing it into a new exciting environment that gets students excited to read and apply those skills. And then no two students are alike. I think that's the beauty of community, is that what I find interesting or how I learn is going to be different than how Brian learns or Tiana or anyone else on the call. but giving an opportunity for us to leverage adaptive technology really creates that personalized learning pathway. It's differentiated, and it's going to help us with applying those skilled application. And why does that matter? We know that more students, if they aren't seeing it in elementary, are going into secondary, schools or classrooms, and they still need that firm foundation. So if we can create that earlier or work to advance that or accelerate that for students, we're providing them with a structured literacy approach. And that's going to eliminate labored reading. So if we can get them quickly from acquisition into application, it's going to really improve or accelerate those learning outcomes. And like Brian said earlier, we know that acquisition of skills is important. We know phonics is important, but we don't want to eliminate the need for enhancing that reading comprehension or the fluency. So if we can get them from acquisition to application earlier in one technology, we're going to eliminate or help mitigate that misalignment. And then the beauty of it is that if you're building a tree of strong readers or a sense of community that's built for diversity in mind or with diversity in mind. So collectively, you can see that every student, regardless of what their previous ability is, has that opportunity to succeed. And you can have a classroom of diverse learners that sees success for themselves. You can bring that at a school level or a district level. And we're going to continue to implement and have science of reading best practices in mind, that body of research, because we know most students benefit from that. So instead of honing in just on intervention for students that have gaps, we can create a collective community where we celebrate each unique student. So what does that mean? We're going to create a reading studio that's really powerful, and it creates that personalized intervention for each student. So every student is going to start with that assessment. Again, this is helping signal information for teachers, right? You'll be able to see students' foundational skill level, their kind of skill reading level, and that's going to ensure that we understand where these students are, and then we can target intervention or instruction in the classroom as well. Now, if we need to identify students that may be at risk for dyslexia, then we can do that with our dyslexia screener that's meant for those early kiddos, those K-3 students. And that helps provide some insights for teachers to understand that they may need to guide instruction. You may be able to see students that are at risk. And then as you work in the classroom or at your school, being able to have a program that also progress monitors to see or evaluate that effective instruction is really important. And then all of our screeners are available online. And then with the coach, sorry, I'm going to try and hide my wrong.
Okay.
Oops. Sorry. With Reading Coach, it's built on Orton Gillingham. It's science of reading aligned. And it's going to also provide immediate corrective feedback for students. So that's just something to keep in mind, is that we're going to be able to have our coaches on screen providing that high quality instruction, and it's going to be adaptive based on each student's experience. And then we're really excited that the studio also provides that personalized library. If we know we can engage with students immediately, have them work on a skill in Coach, and then go find a book of high interest or a decodable text that helps them apply that instantaneously, we're going to see that reinforcement of skills. We're going to make sure that we're helping build that fluency and comprehension in real time and have really high quality experience in a cohesive manner. And then we know that accessibility is a critical component for students that may need intervention or have special needs. And so we want to make sure that we're able to adapt those reading experiences. No two students read alike. Some students can benefit from audiobooks or some additional reinforcement. And we want to create a really inclusive environment for them to be able to do so. And then with our partnership with Metametrics, we have those texts lexiled. And that's really important to make sure we're hitting students within their zone of proximal development. It's kind of the Goldilocks, if you will, not too hot, not too cold, not too easy, not too hard, so that we can motivate them and build that intrinsic motivation for learning. So again, what is our strategy here at MindPlay? We want to emphasize personalization. If we put students at the front and center, we can make sure that we're building a love of building those reading skills. They're going to take that into their classrooms, their general education settings, and see that application firsthand, build that in motivation. I sat with a student in Arizona. It was really beautiful to see that they saw the value of the time spent in coach was going to help them in library. And it was this light bulb moment. You know, these kids say, if I can go ahead and answer a closed question, I'm a genius. Watch me do this. And if I can create those instances, or if you guys can create those instances in your classroom, you know that you're going to see that benefit and see incremental growth. So we know that the benefit is creating a unified solution to eliminate that disjointedness, help serve our communities. So from acquisition, assessment, and application, we want to give students and teachers all of the tools they need in one unified system. And then again, teaching doesn't happen in a vacuum. Learning doesn't happen in a vacuum. We know that our educators can leverage technology to catalyst growth and improve outcomes in their classes and for those students. So I'm really excited to continue to strategize together so that we can continue to see those changes and think of how might we create change for the students that we serve. So with that, I'm going to also ask Tiana, launch a poll. How do you believe that a holistic reading intervention solution could integrate in your classrooms to be able to benefit your students? We are waiting for some others, but we're about 50% already. We're seeing supporting differentiated instruction with targeted resources as a top. And then our second one is improving engagement and motivation. Love that, Jillian. She says, all of the above, right? We want to create one system that does all of these things. And I'm excited for you to all see it because we have something really exciting to share. And I'm going to kick it over to Brian to do that. Oops.
Yeah, do you want to let me take back over?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Let's see here. See if my black box is gone here. How does that look?
Looks great.
Fantastic. All right. So that was a great summary, Michelle, of kind of our strategy. We took those challenges that I talked about in the beginning, and for the better part of the last year, the team at MindPlay has been working on unifying our direct instruction in the coach with our personalized library platform. And here's what we've come up with, right? And so a little playful screenshot here at the beginning of my next segment that shows what the students see. So welcome MindPlay Studio, everybody. To get started, show us what you already know. And that's how the student's journey will begin in Studio. And from there, they'll have an integrated environment to read their books, get their lessons, see their progress, set goals, and teachers will be able to see, teachers admins will be able to see all that reporting. But Michelle mentioned our assess, acquire, apply, and analyze kind of mantra, right? So that the 4 A's that we're trying to make coherent across the student and teacher's full experience. So let's get into some specifics of what in studio we're doing to try and improve what we already offer in the coach. So let's start an assessment and how we're assessing. Well, we're offering new specialized assessments for educators, and two of those are oral reading fluency, right? We have silent reading fluency in our program. That's one of our main measures of student performance. It's a strong indicator of performance on high stakes testing. And oral reading fluency, just important in grades 1 through 6. The student reads the passage aloud, and you grade the omissions, substitutions, and you establish a words correct per minute score for the student in a running record. So the difference in studio is this can be administered at scale without any extra burden on the teacher. So, and independently completed by we use voice recognition and some fancy algorithms to score the test, the assessment on behalf of the teacher. And then the teacher can easily review the grading and confirm the results. This has some great benefits. Like I just covered, it's a much more effective use of time and resources. It provides objective results, right? It's not every teacher in the district administering this. It's one grader that doesn't have any bias or other priorities that might rush them. It spends the time with the student, and it reduces the student's anxiety, testing anxiety, excuse me. Instead of a one-on-one administration of the assessment, they can complete it independently. Related to oral reading fluency, very similar, but for the little kiddos is rapid automatized naming, or RAM. Some of you might be familiar with our current dyslexia screening, but an automatic paired with our dyslexia screening can help establish double deficit scoring that correlate very strong with indications of future risk and with students' reading levels. So these two tests are our first assessments in studio that our teacher assigned. Other than dyslexia screener, I think we've had that one that way for a while. But so students will get their automatic screenings, but teachers will have the option to add these two assessments to the students so they can get better measures of student performance and risk. In addition, in the personalized library, right? So students are reading and interacting with books of their choosing in their zone of proximal development. We call that the power text zone. And when they're in there, they'll be posed with closed questions that test their comprehension knowledge and are used every 15 days to update a Lexile score for the student. And then the student and teacher can easily see the progress in Lexile throughout the year as it updates. So those are some ways that the assessments are growing more sophisticated and informative in studio. And, you know, I don't want to scoot by acquisition because that's something that MindPlay has always done very well. So in studio, students are still receiving their high quality instruction from the on-screen speech and language pathologists and coaches that instruct them in all the foundational skills. So, you know, I love talking about what's new in studio, but I definitely don't want to leave out the fact that what we do well, we're still going to do very well as we go forward and improve upon it. But now that acquisition comes with some immediate application. So students may be working on the short E lesson, mastering that phonics concept. And when they do achieve mastery there, they can transition directly into our new decodable library of texts that are aligned to our scope and sequence. And so now they're in the library, they've just finished a lesson and they're reading the book about Ted here and his best pal, reinforcing the short E concept. So we love this idea of that a student can come into the classroom one day, master a skill, and then read a book, a story that's interesting to them that they couldn't read at the beginning of the day. And so that's a very powerful experience to see for me, or for a teacher to see, or for a parent to see. But it can be something the students will know and understand, and build the motivation to go back in and master more skills so they can open more of these texts, and eventually be free reading and non-decoding texts, right? So once they've and we have given them opportunities to apply those, and we're assessing them in multiple ways, the system has all this data, and we want to curate that data and show it to the teachers and administrators in a way that is insightful, that's actionable, and helps you make it easier for you to integrate MindPlay into the rest of your classroom activities, right? And so on the class dashboard, teachers can easily discover trends in usage and growth, both in the coach and the reading level, and in the library uses in Lexile. And they also get recommendations curated for them. So the class average growth, just a zoomed in view of that here. So this view, when viewed in this detailed view, can help you track individual students in relation to the class average. You can see granular growth inside of those categories. So you can see, the student is below level, but they've been improving within that zone. So they're still critical, but they're making progress, right? Or the student isn't tracking related to the classroom, and so I need to intervene or give that student a little bit more attention to see what's wrong there. And you can identify outliers here. So seeing students who are not using the program, or are far off the class average, that need to be flagged for additional intervention. And then on the right-hand side, you can see the teacher recommendation feed. So we've had the ability in MindPlay to detect struggling students and recommend, went the wrong direction there, recommend support sheets and small group instruction. So that struggling student indicator that we've always had, that's where this will surface, and it'll recommend, hey, you have these 3 students who are struggling in CK, and these other students are also working in CK. You might want to pull them and administer this support sheet in a small group to help them build and acquire that skill. But in addition, here is where it would surface that you have students that have completed a concept and mastered a new skill. And so you can celebrate that achievement with them, but then also assign them a decodable book in the library that they can now interact with, having mastered that skill. And so that's another way we're doing analysis. So on the individual student level, this is really part, I saved it for last, it's one of the more exciting things. We've fallen in love with this, view of students as a whole picture, not individual skills and gaps, but a view of unique strengths and opportunities. So every student, when you look at them in the system, they'll have this foundational skill profile. It'll be different from every kid around them. They'll have strengths in some areas and opportunities in others. And it establishes a unique fingerprint of this student. And so it helps you as the teacher understand them better, helps you facilitate discussions with parents and highlight strengths. But also, it's not just all pretty. You can drill into this and understand how those scores have progressed over time. Is the students, you see on the foundational skill profile that they're below grade level in phonics, below their expectation. Drilling into that, you'll see whether or not the student's progressing in their phonics skills as a result of the instruction. Maybe they're progressing, maybe they're not. Well, if they're not, you see what lessons have been assigned and how the student is progressing through those. And then on each individual lesson, you can immediately see what errors they're making. And so if all else fails, the journey for you to go find why a student might be struggling in a certain area is very quick. And we try and get you to those insights as quickly as we possibly can. And so one of the really interesting discoveries here is when you drill into a lesson the student's working on, and you see the 5 errors they're making, and they're not making short E errors, they're making other vowel errors or a different related error. And so you can immediately address that. So this is very insightful for teachers interested in tracking those the student progress as they move through the program. So we're really excited about all these things that we're adding, and it's just the beginning. And so we would really love it if we could bring a lot of you along with us on this journey as more things get integrated in the system and we introduce more insightful reporting and engagement opportunities for the students. So if you're interested in understanding how you can switch from MVRC, I think I saw in the chat that Doreen was talking about that with a couple of you already. You can scan this code on screen or just contact somebody in the chat and they can talk to you about transitioning. As part of this, we understand with the personalized library that MindPlay Studio can probably fit in front of more of your students and be applicable in more settings in your district or your school or classroom. And so as part of this launch of Studio, we're offering a reduced pricing on any expansions, kind of a 2-for-1 expansion offer, where you can put Studio in front of more students and they can benefit from all the interesting content and that it offers. So thank you for watching my demonstration there of some of the new features. Michelle, can I toss back to you now?
Yeah.
Or I can just keep going.
Yeah, if you can just keep sharing. We're going to move right into Q&A. Tiana has graciously agreed to monitor the Q&A and ask Brian and I questions. You can also put questions in chat, but we have time to answer questions right now. And so we'd love to do that.
And I will give people another minute if they want to submit anything.
While people are typing away, I really just want to touch on Ruby's comment on it creates that buy-in, or it allows teachers to create buy-in. We've seen that, right? I mean, I've sat with different partners that are already trying Studio out and giving us feedback, and it's been so powerful to hear students say, I want to use that in my classroom, or I want to go ahead and go into the library. Again, going back to closed questions or Lexile, students know what their strengths are and they know where they can succeed. So if we can continue to celebrate them and see what their unique potential is, it is a really powerful thing to witness.
All right, we have one in the chat from Jillian. MindPlay data has already been head and shoulders above other programs I've used. Could you talk a bit more about the web?
Yeah, Jillian. I mean, obviously, teachers and admins who do have that level of engagement with our system and drill into our reports, we do get a lot of great feedback saying that we have data like no one else shows, that's real time and very detailed. What's been the challenge in the existing system is that hurdle, right? It takes time to run the reports. It takes time to understand and learn the reports. And so a lot of what we're trying to do with the spider chart and the foundational skills profile and having it drillable to where you can drill into the assessment data and the progress data directly there is to make that experience more intuitive and easier for teachers to do. So if it can take them less time to drill in and get those insights, then our hope is that makes logging in MindPlay something you do over coffee and you gain a lot of insights and actionable things for the day. Because right now the challenge of consuming our current data set is reserved for those that have receive the training or spend the time, to be honest, to know and understand them. So I'm really excited about how we've simplified reporting without losing any of the detail that we provide, right? So we're going to still provide all that progress data, all the struggling indicators, all the assessments and pieces like that and more. But talking about it initially at the student level from that spider chart is great. We intentionally didn't put numbers on that chart. When you look at the student, you can drill in, that's where you see all the numbers, right? But on the student details, we want that discussion to be about a profile of the student, and so the opportunity to highlight those strengths is where you start. So a student who struggles in decoding, may have low phonics or spelling scores, and who has a high vocabulary and isn't too far off in their comprehension or fluency. It's interesting to understand the story of how the student is compensating or overcoming challenges in certain areas by developing superpowers in these others. That's a really much more positive way to start the discussion, and then go into, all right, what are the details? What do I need to do? What's the real story here? Because we do need to address those opportunities for improvement as well.
Awesome. And there's some chat going on, just kind of general excitement about everything you're sharing, Brian. We have another question that came in from Amy McAllister. Is there a big learning curve for teachers that are already familiar with MindPlay?
Yeah, so if you're familiar with MindPlay, Amy, you'll always have the opportunity to jump back to that system. So, inside of Studio, teachers will be able to launch into the legacy system if they have a preferred report. So you won't run into any challenges there, which is great. Now that eventually will go away as we migrate more of the capability in reporting over. But you'll have no challenge if you learned and understood the old legacy system. You'll have no challenge transitioning to Studio. It's wildly easier to navigate, to understand what's going on. We have useful guides that pop up and kind of show you what's going on in there as well, that explains data. There's built-in resource centers and walkthroughs. And just overall, it's the UX design is far and away better than what we have in Manager. Not to say, I'm proud of Manager. I've been here 13 years. I helped build it. Yeah. And it served its purpose for a long time, but we needed something more modern and highlighted the important data that we're generating quicker and easier for teachers. So no, I don't think you'll have any issue with that. In transitioning and or piloting and new customers piloting, in 2024, we're kind of including that training as well. So if you're an existing customer and expanding and you want to switch over to Studio, I'm sure Doreen and our success team will jump in and make sure you don't have any issues. But I think you're gonna have no challenges.
Thank you. And another question that just came in from Christy Tucker. So can you speak to the specific grade levels MindPlay Reading Studio can be used for, and if there's a recommended amount of time or frequency?
Yeah, so those on the call familiar with our coach fidelity recommendations? That's about 2 hours a week for students receiving intervention. That said, MindPlay Reading Studio fits with a lot more students, right? If it's better in K1 with the decodable text and RAN and the other things we're adding, if it's better in middle and high school because of the personalized library, we have Lexile high interest text all the way up to 12th grade Lexile levels. And so thus we allow in Studio for you to adjust the goals for both of those areas. Students that require a little bit of skills acquisition, right? You can see that through their pretest and their profile, can have a little bit lower bar of coach instruction per week, but more independent reading. And so you can tailor it at all levels. And so there's something for everybody at all levels. I would say that, traditionally our sweet spot, and even with this expansion, probably is the 2 through 8, 2 through 9 grade levels. where you get the most value if students do need some skills acquisition reinforcement, but this could be used for all your kids as their digital library. You know, and just the students that need intervention have a goal or an expectation that they're going to enter the coach and receive those skills.
Awesome.
I
Are
don't know if
there
that's a great answer. I'm like, everybody, use it with everybody.
I think
You
it's a
get a
great
CEO.
question. A great answer.
Brian, can you advance to the next
Sure.
slide?
Yes.
Tiana, you want to hit this? It's your plug for the next time we can all.
Yes, I would love that. Yeah, so before everybody jumps away, this is kind of where I wish I had a drum roll kit that I could make this announcement. But we are inviting you all to save the date for a brand new conference experience that MindPlay is bringing forth called MindPlay Connect. So this is coming from, after talking with partners like you, just really craving opportunities to connect with us, with one another, and really just discuss issues that are affecting your teams, trends in K through 12, best practices for your specific MindPlay solution, and gaining insight into ways other schools that are like-sized are also finding success. We really wanted to get everybody together and in a venue like this, but a little bit larger, and that allows for more engagement. So we're going to be doing that on October 8th. There is going to be registration information in our follow-up email after this webinar that will. And then if you follow us on social media, that's also my plug, or subscribe to our blog, or if you just like to peruse our website often, you're going to start seeing information basically anywhere MindPlay is, because we're really excited about this and excited to continue serving you this fall. There's a lot coming.
And last slide, Brian, and then is just ways that you can connect with us. I'll also put the subscription to the blog or insights so you can connect with us. I think that's really cool. We want to continue to include you in this discussion. So I'll put the link in the chat on how you can subscribe, but please feel free to follow us on all of the channels, and we will see you again soon. But please reach out. We'd love to make sure your students can benefit from Studio. We're excited to bring you all along for the ride. Thanks, everyone.
Wonderful.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for being here.